This is day 2 of 5 days on the study of Abigail from Max Loketo's 10 Women of the Bible. You can't talk about Abigail without first talking about David. So today really doesn't talk about Abigail. It's setting the stage for the beauty and the bravery of Abigail beginning in the next study tomorrow on day 3. So this is mostly about David and Nabal and their conflict. So let's get into it. God-seeking misfits is how Max Loketo frames this. Wilderness survivors find refuge in God's presence. They also discover community among God's people. Community is important, and we'll talk about that more. In David's case, his brothers and other relatives soon joined him, remembering he was fleeing from the wrath of Saul. Others began to arrive, but they were people who were in trouble, the Bible says, or in debt, or just discontented, until David was the leader of about 400 men. Not what you'd call the best, the cream of the crop, right, from the outside looking in. These were men who were in trouble, men who were in debt, or men who were discontent. Quite a crew of misfits, actually. David was no candidate at that time to be, as Max Loketo says, an archbishop, right? He was creating a community of misfits, but they were God-seeking misfits. And God took those band of discontented, maybe even sinful men and made them into a team of mighty warriors because they followed him and they submitted to the authority that God had given David, right? We have to be in line with our authority. They came to David day by day to help him until it was like a great army. Until it was a great army like the army of God. That's from 1 Chronicles 12:22 in the New King James Version. David and his misfits journeyed from place to place to avoid, again, Saul's soldiers who were out to get them. Eventually, they found themselves in the desert of Paran, or Paran. It's B-A-R-A-N. I call it Paran. Where they settled in and they began protecting those around them. David was good in his heart. He had learned to be a protector by being a shepherd, right? He was fierce in protecting what he was called to protect. And self-appointed or God-appointed, I don't know. But he saw that there were shearers at the end of the harvest in this time when the harvest was gathered in. Then they would shear the sheep and get meat ready, and then they would have a big celebration, a party to celebrate the end of the harvest. But while they were shearing all those sheep for Nabal, who was a very wealthy man and owned a lot of the property in that area, David and his men, the Bible says, camped around about them, kept them safe from the bandits that were out there in the day, the Bedouins, and those that would be out there to commit mischief and to steal and kill and destroy. And so David and they decided they would protect these men of Nabal. Okay? David sought refuge in God while he was on the run from Saul, but he also offered that same refuge to others. David, if you ever watch the movie The Blind Side, how that protective instinct, David definitely had that protective instinct. Who's a refuge for you? Who do you run to and why? What makes them your safe place? Who is it, right? Think about that and think about what is it about them that makes you feel safe. Now, on the other side of that coin, who are you a refuge for? What is it about you that makes people feel safe? That's a good one. And if you don't feel like you are a safe place, you need to examine what is it about me that's unsafe and work on that with the Lord. Maybe he's calling some of us out on this, right? It's always good to do self-reflection. All right. David created a community of misfits, like we said, a place where outsiders and rebels felt like they belonged. Today, God calls those of us in the church to be a safe place for people who aren't in the church. I don't want to call them outsiders, but people who aren't currently in the church. In Matthew 25:35-40, what does Jesus infer about how the church should look at people from the world, right? And Matthew 25:35, this is one of my very favorites. For when I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. We have to be quick to do that. If your church, let's compare it this way. Does your church look like a hospital? Does it look like a place where people are in various stages, those that are coming in broken and wounded and battered by the world and don't really know Jesus yet. And there's those that have just met him and are full of exuberance and hope and excitement. And then those that are walking with Jesus, they're just walking with Jesus. And then those that have walked a long, long time with Jesus, and they have wisdom and they're at peace and calm no matter the storm because they've walked a lot of miles with the Lord. Or, so you should have every stage among you. Or, do you look like a movie set where everybody